All right. Well, Corey, let's lead it off, and I'll just say what a lot of our esteemed chatters have said. 3 letters, WTF, Corey.
Yeah, yeah. Is the F for Fuller?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured. What the Fuller? Look, man, he deserves blame clearly. The third and long defense was atrocious for most of the game. The way they started bothered me even more. Just don't give the kid layups. Don't give a kid making a second start layups because then he gets confidence and then he's going to turn apparently into John Elway. So don't give him confidence. Make him earn some yards and some points and see where you are. You just gave him too many layups and too many big plays. But man, the offense was atrocious in the second half. It was atrocious. You had a 31-10 lead and the ball at midfield, about to ice the game. And I think you got 2 first downs the rest of the way. One was by penalty to end the game. This offense, we know the defense isn't dominant. We know it can be pretty good or good even. But this offense needs to be elite. And if this offense had been working on all cylinders today, that's a 28-point win easily. But the offense really struggled. I really didn't like anything about after the Jaheim Bell play. I didn't like anything about what they did offensively. I didn't think it was Norvell's best game. I also thought it was a weird game with you only got 1 possession in the first quarter. That's nuts. It just makes everything kind of off kilter right away. But yeah, the third and long plays were really, really disappointing, especially I tweeted about this and I mentioned it on Warchant Wrap and I'll mention it in my column. It's 3rd and 17. You're up 31-10. The game's over if you get a stop. It's over. They've almost given up. They're running into the line trying to get off the field, just swallow time so the game can be over. And you give up a 40-yard pass where the kid is wide open in the middle of the field. It's another layup. They score a few plays later, and all of a sudden it's the game again. That's the stuff that bothered me the most. Too easy on third and long. That's what bothered me the most.
Yeah, and that too. Going back to the offense, and I just brought up this point, Corey, about you ran for 3.8 yards per rush against a team that Holy Cross pushed around.
Yeah.
And to me, when a game like this, when some things are off kilter, the weird stuff's happening, this is when you're ahead in the second half where you lean on the offensive line. I don't know what went on there, the guys, what happened there. And then also it goes back to, is Trey Benson still your starting running back? Or it seemed like a lot of times he had a chance to run through a hole and he went back to tiptoe it. I mean, I don't understand what's going on there.
Yeah, I think that, to me, that's a bigger deal than the offensive line. You look, they had 1 tackle for loss in the game, not counting the stuff at the end where Jordan was running backwards. They had 1 tackle for loss in the game. There are holes there, in my opinion. Now, they're not maybe holes where they're 50-yard runs, but those are 8-yard runs. Those are chain movers.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, you're getting 2 or 3 runs because your 215-pound back isn't hitting the hole like he needs to hit the hole, in my opinion. I thought Rodney Hill was the best runner today.
Yep.
I think Rodney Hill's been the best runner through 3 games. And I think there was a point there late in the game. They put Toafili in instead of Rodney Hill. Benson had another run where I thought it was blocked up okay. Wasn't great. It wasn't the Cowboys of the 90s. And he got 2 yards when he should have gotten 5, and they yanked him. And that's when Toafili came in the game. He stuck his helmet out to get that big face mask. That's a veteran play by Toafili, sticking the face mask out like that. But yeah, I have not been impressed at all with Trey Benson. I don't think he's been good so far. We know he can be good. But to me, that is something that's got to be better. He's got to be better. Or he doesn't need to get the carries he's getting in big-time moments. But yeah, overall, and look, the Keon Coleman play, I guess that's by the rule interference. It's just you really hate it because it had no impact on the play, and the game's over right there. I think you're at the 20-yard line. It's 1st and 10. You exhale. I think the game's over. Instead, you end up having to punt, and they're right back in the game again. So nothing went right offensively for Florida State at all. I thought Jordan was fine throwing the ball. He made 1 bad throw to Johnny, I thought, on 3rd down. But I don't know if that's the throw you need to make on 3rd and 3. Yeah. 3rd and 3s are pretty easy to pick up. I don't know why you're making a 50-50, kind of high degree of difficulty play right there.
And I think on that one, too, I think Toafili was wide open, a little dump off, which would have easily picked up the 3 yards. Yep. And again, one of those plays probably effectively ends the game, but you had to go down the field on 3rd and short on a play like that. And the last thing I want to ask you about before I let Tom get in on this, and something you know very well as a Georgia guy, last year, that Missouri game, they're losing by 10 points in the 4th quarter. Is that, that's a question. Is this the aberration? Is this the wake-up call? This is the one game. Almost every great team has one of these games. Or is this a systemic problem? Are there really issues with this team that really just reared their ugly head in this game? I guess we'll know that next week, right?
I was going to say, I think we'll know that over the course of the next month, or certainly this week. To me, it felt just like an anomaly. It felt like such a weird game, guys, where you only get the ball once in an entire first quarter. You're trailing, and then you get up 31 after as bad as it started. It felt like it was going to be a real game. Like, oh God, this is going to be a white knuckler till the finish. What are we doing? And then you're up 31-10 with 11 minutes to go in the third quarter. It is natural to exhale.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we survived that. Here we are. We're Florida State. They're Boston College. They suck. We're gonna win by 35 points. We're gonna cover the spread. Next thing you know, they convert a 3rd and 17, and you're in a fight for your life the rest of the way. I just think, to me, it felt like that. It felt like a team. Now, I didn't like the way they seemed kind of rattled, the offense especially, against a not good defense. All they needed was a few first downs, and they couldn't get them until the face mask. It wasn't them doing it. So I didn't like that at all. That wasn't positive. But you got to assume they'll get better at that. I think Norvell is a very good coach. I think they've got very good players. It was a bad game. I do not think it means it's a bad team, because I watched what LSU did today to Mississippi State. You beat that team by 4 touchdowns. You are a very good team. You had an awful day. And I think I was talking to Ira about this, and I'm sure we'll write about it. The worst thing that could happen for a Florida State team is to go into Clemson overconfident. Like, we're going to beat the bejesus off them. We're too good. We're the best team in the country, and they're not very good. We're going to beat them by 5 touchdowns. Well, I can promise you they're not going to have that mindset now. There's no way you can be overconfident after that debacle in the second half up there in Chestnut Hill, right? Don't you think that helps them move? It could. Or it could strike them of confidence, and all of a sudden they start to question themselves. There's the two ways it can go, but I think it'll probably be the former. And I think this could end up being a very valuable lesson with a win, just like Missouri was last year for Georgia, potentially.
Yeah, agreed. Corey, I'll ask you a micro question and a macro question. Same time. It's like a twofer on a Monday press conference.
All right, nice.
All right, so the micro question is slow starts. Is that something you're concerned about? And the macro question is, did you see, because you've been to a ton of these practices, did you see any signs in practice that something like this could happen, or did it just kind of show up on game day to you?
I'll answer the second one first. No, I did not. And I'm very surprised by it, because I think Norvell, what he preaches is this doesn't happen to his teams. They treat every opponent the same. They showed Jared Verse on the sidelines in the third quarter when the game was 31-10. They had just gotten a stop. Seemed like they were laughing a little bit and having a good time, which you're allowed to do. It's college football. Go have fun. And he's a gregarious personality. But I just think it comes back to them exhaling, thinking the game was over. And it was not. And they're too mature a group to just let their foot off the gas like that. And then when it becomes a game again, they start shivering and panicking, and Toafili makes a rare mistake. And Benson doesn't fall on the ball. All those things that went wrong, the OPI on Coleman, it was a avalanche, which I don't like. Mature teams don't get avalanched like that. But mature teams do find a way to win, and they did. So I did not see anything like that at all. And I was surprised, because usually I just go back to last year, guys. They ended last season by just dominating the 2 or 3 games they had on the road. Like, they went in there, got an early lead, and stepped on their throats. I thought this team had that in them, and I still think it does. But that was a disastrous final quarter and a half. And then for the slow starts, yeah, man. I mean, I guess we're talking about defensively, or really, defensively, because the offense scored every time I had the ball in the first half, essentially. Yeah, that is an issue. It's a problem, because you just can't give free points up, man. Like, if you make them earn it, Florida State had to go earn their points in that game. They had to go earn that field goal to start the game. I didn't feel like Boston College did. You let a guy run wide open on a drag coming out of like a naked bootleg. It wasn't a trick play, and he's open by 40 yards. There's nobody on the screen with him. That's crazy. Plus, that kid might be really good. That quarterback was impressive, man. Some of the plays he made were just really good college football plays. Other ones, you let them have layups, and that's what was so disappointing.
Agreed. All right, last thing for me, Corey, is to what extent, here's an old high school question, to what extent does today's result change your opinion for what's possible next week at Clemson?
Oh, it doesn't. I think they're gonna. I think I still have the same faith in them I did before that game. I think they're the better team. I think they can go and win. I think if anything, it probably narrows the focus and rallies them up a little bit. They're going to be doubted, which I think is going to be good for them, to have a little doubt, to people not doubt them, for people to doubt them and think they're not going to win easy. So I think that will. It didn't change anything for me, honestly. I think if anything, when you have a mature group like this and such an old veteran group, I think it just kind of focuses them more. I think they can, it could be galvanizing, and you get to galvanize after a win. As ugly as it was a dub, and they're 3-0. And I don't know where they'll be at the end of when they get ranked tomorrow, but they'll be in the top 5, 3-0. That's pretty. You'll take that when you can learn awful lessons like they had to learn today.
Gene, anything else?
Nope. Other than I'm sure you're going to write about your column. I'm sure they'll be out soon, Corey. So we're all looking forward to that, and your sage wisdom will be upon us very soon.
Amen. Amen. 3-0, baby. 3-0.